in this episode of the Alpha X podcast.
Our characters come out when we fight. Everyone's a ninja till everything is going good. It's when you're pushed in deep waters, when you're pushed in, horrible situations, is when your true character comes out. Some people quit and some come out fighting. And that's us. And I have always believed that we are all fighters in one way or the other. Fighting has always been a part of who we are.
Improve your health. Optimize your nutrition. Perform at your peak level. Increase your lifespan. Build a powerful mindset. This is Jay Parekh and welcome to the Alpha X podcast. Welcome everyone. Today's podcast is really special. The conversation that I had with my guest, which I'm about to introduce to you guys, it was amazing. This is a man who's decided to live a life of adversity on purpose. I mean, he's gone and followed his passion. He could have taken the easy way out, taken the safe route, but he went ahead and he figured out what he wanted and he followed his passion. And this guy, he punches people in the face and gets punched every day for a living, and the kind of mindset that you require in order to be able to do that on a regular basis, sometimes twice a day, it's insane. So I want you guys to listen into this conversation, and the conversation goes, in all places. My guest, he isn't known to pull back his punches even when he speaks. What I mean by that is that he'll speak his mind, which is what I want. So he'll speak his mind, and there are some things that we cover that might be considered controversial for a few people. Not for me, but might be for a few people. So, if you can't handle nuanced conversation, if you can't handle different points of view, I don't know. That's your problem. But we're about to get started. Buckle in. This is going to be a really cool one. And I'll see you on the other side. So tonight's guest is one of the most recognized figures in MMA today. He's the founder of Evolution Combat Sports and the head coach and founder of Team Relentless, which is India's #1 MMA and grappling fight team. And they've produced over a dozen national and global champions in combat sports like jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts. His name is Jitendra Khare. He is also my coach. So guys, everybody who's listening in, I affectionately call him coach, or I call him Vicky sir. So don't get confused. That's what I'm going to call him throughout the conversation. How are you doing, coach? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jay, for having me on. I'm doing great, man. Considering the circumstances, I think I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's crazy out there with the lockdown. Before we started recording, we were just talking about how difficult it's been and how uncertain it's been. And one of the things that I've really learned with martial arts, and I think one of the key aspects of martial arts is dealing with uncertainty.
Yeah, so I guess that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it obviously is learning to adapt to new situations. I mean, I for one have been a creature of habit, and it actually I quite live by a schedule. So it's for me, it's I if you ask me what I'm going to do 3 months from now, I know what I'm going to do 3 months from now, because I have more or less a fixed schedule, and I have always followed it to the T. I mean, obviously, it's sometimes situations arise and you have to, tend to them. But yeah, I mean, this has taught us not to, uh, I'm trying not to be a creature of habit anymore, because I was used to working about 16 to 18 hours a day,
Mhm.
traveling and working. and from that to 24 hours under a lockdown has been difficult. But then again, yeah, like martial arts, life also teaches you how to learn and adapt.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Why don't we talk a little bit about how, your journey in the world of martial arts began? I remember we were, I think, coming back from Kochi, and you at the airport. I don't know if you remember this conversation that we were having. I think we came back from the Nationals Jiu-Jitsu, and you were telling me about how your journey in martial arts began. Why don't we talk a little bit about that?
So, Jay, I've always said this. I've been a martial artist for life. I was very fortunate to, start my education in a boarding school, Ban School, Devlali, where, boxing was one of the sports which was on the roster for the year. So, and it was a big sport. And so, I started learning boxing at the age of 5. Also, like most schools, karate was one of the martial arts that we did.
Right.
So right up till college, I have done boxing and competed, and then I was an active kickboxer as well, because my coach, Mr. Solomon Isaac,
Hmm.
was the president of the All India Kickboxing Federation back then, and we used to be very actively competing in kickboxing as kids as well. So that actually started off my martial arts journey. After that, whenever I came home, I on summer vacations and stuff from my boarding, I did dabble a bit into the kushti in akhada, where because I hailed from this district Raigad in Maharashtra,
Okay.
where mud pit wrestling is pretty big still. It's that Maharashtrian belt where dangal and all still happens in fairs, which are obviously called as jatras,
Right.
and wrestling is a big thing. So I like most kids, I was who was doing martial arts, I was pretty inquisitive about wrestling, and so I went and joined up. And I would love to say I started wrestling very early, but yeah, I mean, most of the summer vacations that I wrestled, it went in my seniors rubbing my face in the mud.
Right.
But I guess, yeah, at least that teaches you something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
whenever I'm training also with you guys, and whenever I am having a hard time as well. I'm having a hard time, but I'm learning as well. That's the best part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I always looked at it that I'm going to just keep turning up, and at some point I'm going to stop sucking at it. So, yeah, I kept turning up, and that was there. In college I did a bit of boxing. Unfortunately, at that time I was also actively powerlifting, and I landed up with a back injury. And that coupled with starting my diploma in aircraft maintenance engineering through my martial arts and sports out of track for almost 2 years.
Okay.
And then I did come back, and I started powerlifting a bit again, though I was shifting around so much at that point that I never got to get back to active powerlifting, something I've always missed and regretted I should have done at that time. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, I that time I'd started training in Pune. Then I shifted to Bombay for my engineering, and then within Bombay I kept shifting into different areas, and I could never hold on to one gym, and so that became a big challenge. But fortunately, in 2008 again,
Hmm. Hmm.
I started training judo under Professor Ashok Chaudhary, who was my judo coach, and there actually began my grappling journey. I mean, at that point, I was just seeing a lot of UFC and actually more of Pride, and
Right.
had just migrated to seeing TUF and stuff. So, you're very inquisitive about learning Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but there wasn't any in India at that point. There wasn't any. There was some Japanese Jiu Jitsu and Finnish Jiu Jitsu, and I attended a couple of class, and it just wasn't for me. And
Hmm.
so, I went to Professor Ashok Chaudhary, and he was very, he was really uh, like just welcomed me, because he saw that I had a bit of a wrestling background, and I had a martial arts background. And though, I mean, I would love to say I was young back then, but no, I was 30. And
Wow.
he said, why not? So
Hmm.
yeah, I started learning judo under him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Competed at Judo Nationals in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Represented Maharashtra in Judo Nationals. Uh, and yes, since then, in 2010 January, we started Evolution Mixed Martial Arts in Mumbai, which
Mm-hmm.
arguably was the first dedicated mixed martial arts training center back then. And
Okay. Wow.
so we had a blue belt that would come and take BJJ classes. And so that coupled with judo started off my uh, actual training in grappling. And yeah, there's been no looking back since then. And it's been a long journey. Have
Mm-hmm.
been fortunate to learn various styles. And again, being somebody who's learning MMA and coaching MMA,
Right.
it helps because you can look back, and there are certain things that I can pick up from my karate days, my kickboxing days, my boxing days, even mud pit wrestling.
Right.
And
Right.
now obviously Muay Thai and BJJ and various other martial arts that I've been dabbling with.
But coach, you mentioned that you were doing mechanical engineering, was it?
No, I did my diploma in aircraft maintenance engineering
Okay.
in Aeronautical Training Center of India, which was at that point at the old airport.
Okay. And I also remember you mentioning that you had an office job, like most of us before.
Yeah, so I started working as an apprentice with one of the airlines, and I realized engineering was not for me. And at that point, I was kind of, a little active in the powerlifting scene, though I wasn't competing. I was helping a few friends train and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I got myself certified as a fitness trainer, and I quit the airline industry and I jumped into the fitness industry.
Okay.
um, you can imagine way back then in 2000,
Yeah.
it wasn't one of the most lucrative careers. As a personal trainer, you would get like, I don't know, if you're good, you would get like 5 6,000 rupees a month to personal train
Wow.
somebody and stuff like that. So
Right.
I though I did, it was something that I enjoyed and I did it. But my circumstances were such that my father passed away, in 2000. And then I tried to make it work financially for me way up to 2005. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously there was no financial stability and stuff. And simultaneously I got myself even a BA in psychology, because at that point I was quite keen on pursuing something in sports psychology.
Okay.
The graduation degree helped, and I got myself a corporate job in one of the call centers here. And from 2005 way up till 2012,
Mm-hmm.
I worked with a corporate, and yeah, so had a desk job. And
So you
so
were
have
doing that along with evolution, like, and you started
Yes,
evolution
for
in
the first
2010.
2 years, I did both of it. I mean, in the hindsight, it wasn't a wise decision, but I think it was required at that point, because that, kind of sustained evolution. Because again, at that point, way back in January 2010,
Right.
it was a big achievement for us when 9 members enrolled after 6 months of opening our MMA gym for MMA.
Right.
So, making it, just keeping it afloat. My desk job, my corporate job, obviously, kind of footed that bill as well a
Right.
bit. Uh, so, yeah, I mean, pros and
You,
cons, but
there are a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure you've also come across people like this, but there are a lot of people that, maybe want to take up fighting as a career or want to do something in fitness, or maybe they have some other passion, but they're like working, a corporate job, you know, and they want to make that transition. What would you tell them? I mean, based on your experience, what advice would you like to give them?
so a couple of things, Jay. One thing that I always tell fighters, so I keep getting these messages from these fighters saying, oh, my dad wants me to do engineering, or my parents want me to do this graduation, but I want to be a fighter. And one thing that I always tell them is, do not compromise on your education. You need to complete your education. I think that at least a graduation is a must, whether you're a fighter or not a fighter. I think it's a must, because I have always believed that I don't think a degree helps, but I believe if you're an educated person, you look at things from a different perspective. You have a different way of approaching things. That's what I believe, that's something that education gives us. And I think that has those, obviously, in what I do,
Right.
engineering does not help me, but I think, having my life experiences, going through my education and going through my corporate job, has helped me a lot. Regarding whether they should take it up as a career or no, uh, so what I can speak of my experience was, Jay, obviously, for the 7 years, 8 years that I did my corporate job, I
Yeah.
loved the, initially the financial cushioning, the safety net was a great thing. And, it was like, at the end of the day, yeah, I get to train a bit and I'm happy, that I'm in the MMA scene and
Mm.
doing BJJ and on and off, going and competing.
Mm.
And at the same time, on the first of every month, I have a fixed amount coming to my account, and, I'm happy, I'm good. What happened was, as I got deeper into the sport, I realized that I was going and competing against guys that were training full time. So at some point, I had to make a decision of whether, I mean, I have always said that it's about your goal. If my goal was to compete, then it's a sport like any other profession. I'm an athlete and I need to give it time to develop that profession. So, and over a period of time, I realized this is what I wanted to do. My last 2 years in the corporate job was like, just getting up and getting there and, putting that tick in the box and making sure I get the salary. And, this is what I believe, Jay, is things like salary or, comforts are external motivators. And external motivators only drive you that long. You know, there comes a
Mm-hmm.
point where all external motivations tend to fail, you know and
Mm.
at that point you fall back on, you ask yourself that, do I really see myself doing this for the next 20 years or 30 years? I mean, when I took the jump into going into MMA full time, I was 32. For
Mm.
me, it was like, I can't wait another 5 years or 6 years and then decide, oh, I'm going to quit this and do this full time. I mean, as an athlete, age does play a big role.
True.
So at that point, external motivators were not driving me. I was not happy, and somewhere that was also beginning to affect my work. I mean, initially there was that, when you're motivated, obviously you're giving in 100% and, you're doing more than you're required to do, and all that is there. But at some point for me, it became about, okay, I'm supposed to come here, I'm supposed to give 9 hours, and that's what I'm going to do. But when I sat back and I asked myself, I was obviously not doing justice to even the job that I was doing, nor was I doing justice to my my passion. So, and it was a tough time because my son was at that point 3 months old. So you can imagine the kind of expenses that come along when you have a
Yeah.
child who's 3 months old.
Yeah.
But it was now or never. And I was like, listen, if I don't do take this call now, I'm not going to be able to do this for the next 10 years, because there's always going to be something. There's always going to be, his second, okay, now he's 2 years, he needs to start nursery, or he needs to start kindergarten. Okay, now I need to put him in a play school. It's always going to be there. So, I again, I don't I believe that for me, yes, external motivators stopped motivating me after a point, and I did take the call of following my passion. But then I have also believed to each their own. Jay. I mean, I know that you also did the same. You come from a corporate job, a very strong corporate job, but you took the decision of, following your passion.
Right.
And I guess, I, being in this sport also, I was surrounded by people who were either doing something similar or were looking up to me to say, like, what is he going to do? So I always tell everyone that, listen, I mean, this is a call I took, and it might not be the right thing or the wrong thing. I'm sure, all jobs and all professions have their up and down and have their, uh, you know, they have their good days and bad days. But ultimately, I believe personally that one should follow the passion. And because at the end of the day, I mean, there are so many quotes around it that, oh,
Yeah.
it's about the, time you spend on the desk, it's about the mountains you climbed, and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I believe that I am 41 now. I'm going to turn 42 next year.
Mm-hmm.
Every morning that I wake up, I'm excited to do what I do. I'm looking forward to do what I do. I mean, however crazy it sounds, but yes, I am excited about getting to the gym and uh, getting kicked in the head and punched in the head and having people's ass on my face. For some reason, that's what motivates me. So
Awesome. Awesome. That's one of the things I also wanted to ask you about. What do you think it is when it comes to fighting? I mean, fighting is the oldest sport in human history. Especially there's history of the ancient Greeks doing pancration. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but which is another form of like mixed martial arts, where you're using all limbs and wrestling and different
yep.
kinds of holds and things like that. So what do you think it is, and what does fighting mean for you? Like, why do you do it? Why put your body through the punishment?
So I think fighting is one of our primal instincts. I mean, we all know about the fight and flight syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason it's called the flight or fight syndrome, because it's instinctual to us. I think, if you I mean, like you said, pancreation is one of the great examples. Even if you look back to Roman era and stuff like that, gladiators, I mean, fighting has always been a part of who we are. And I think over the years and pussification of our cultures over the years have got us into a flight mode more than a fight mode. But
I agree. I
I
completely agree with that.
I have always believed, and the again, the cliche of fighting reveals character. I keep saying this, and I believe that our characters come out when we fight.
Who we
It's
really are. There's nowhere
Yeah,
to hide.
because like in real life, man, everyone's a ninja till everything is going good. It's when you're pushed in deep waters, when you're pushed in horrible situations, is when your true character comes out. Some people quit and some come out fighting. And that's us. And I have always believed that you know people look at people and say, "Arey, ye fighter hai, arey nahi, मैं fighter नहीं हूँ." I believe we are all fighters in one way or the other. Our mats are different, our battlegrounds are different. You and me fight on the mat, people fight in their boardrooms, people fight in their houses. I mean, people, in the sense, everyone's life is a fight. If you live in Bombay, getting in a local is a goddamn fight.
Yeah.
We all fight our battles. I mean, we all are fighters at the end of the day. I think at least people like you and me are privileged to see who our opponents are. And that's what, when somebody asked me when I quit my corporate job, and it was like, my friend called me after 6 or 8 months saying, "So, what do you think? Are you regretting it?" So I was like, "Dude, the difference is, I'm now, I at least get to see who's punching me in the face than somebody stabbing me in the back." I mean, that's
Yeah.
the difference. But I guess we are all fighters. Fighting is a part of our life, man. It's just how we, I think it's that you and I are lucky to do it upfront. But
You said that, our culture, there's a pussification, for lack of better word. And
yeah,
what do you think people should do about that? I mean, I felt that to a degree in my own life. Like the reason why I started doing martial arts is also because there was this deep seated feeling in my gut that I cannot handle difficult situations. Like I felt like, I could do better, that there's more inside of me. And I had that realization, and I know for a fact that there are other men out there, and in fact women also out there, who are scared, or maybe they put out this bravado, this front, especially men I'm talking about. They put out this front that, ha, main to kar lunga, I can do this. But in reality, that's not true. What do you suggest? Like, how can we tackle this? Like, how do we, because I think this is a problem and it needs to be addressed.
so I think, Jay, it starts off, like I said, Jay, it's not about, it's also a cultural thing, Jay. I mean, understand that even in India, if you look at people from different areas, like you look at the Northeasterns, we've been privileged to train with guys from Northeast. Understand,
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of tribal pride. There is a lot of, they are headhunters they are descendants of headhunters. So they take a lot of pride in their fighting culture.
Right.
If you look at people from up north, you know, especially people from that Punjab, Haryana belt, where wrestling is still a big thing and boxing is still a big thing. There's
Mm-hmm.
pride in their culture.
Mm-hmm.
Here, where we come from, and especially I believe in metros, when you look at somebody who's fighting, you look at, this guy is not cultured, yeah, this guy is fighting. I mean, look at it like this. I mean, this is what I believe. Uh, if tomorrow my son defends himself and if somebody bullies him in school and my son fights back, the first thing that even in my house my mother would tell my son is, नहीं 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 बेटा ऐसा मत करो, वो तो क्या, वो ऐसा ही है, तुम अच्छा बच्चा है, तुम
Right.
टीचर को कंप्लेन करो. And my
Right.
point to my mother is that, listen, at that point his job is to defend himself first. Yes, he needs to escalate it. I'm not saying that he needs to break that kid's face and then just walk away. No, he needs to you know just make sure that that situation doesn't end up with him getting hurt. And
Mm-hmm.
post that, if that has to be escalated, it has to be escalated. I mean, that is 100%. But this is what I believe that we tell our kids, नहीं नहीं वो क्या, वो हाथापाई करता है क्योंकि वो ऐसा ही है, उन लोग क्या अच्छा बच्चा नहीं है, तुम ना ऐसा मत करो, तुमको मारा भी तो तुम जाके. We
Right.
don't teach our kids to
Right.
say that, no, defend yourself. First thing is defend yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go and complain to the authority, you come and talk to us, you come and talk to the teacher. So
Yeah.
I truly believe, and this is something because my son, my son has trained under you also for such a long time. And since the time my son was 4 years old, he's 8 today. One thing that I have always told him, that when he gets to train with us, it is a privilege. Okay. The
Mm-hmm.
only way he's going to continue enjoying that privilege is that I never get a complaint saying that he hit somebody first. If I
Wow.
ever get to know that he used his training to harm somebody, that privilege is going to be taken away. As long as he's using that to defend himself, I'm happy. And I think, and I believe, and obviously you've trained with him and you have seen,
Mm.
even as a child, he understands that, okay, if I do this, I might land up hurting up somebody. So he, at times, I have had his teachers coming and, telling me and my wife that, oh, he's very sensitive about the fact that, listen, you're pushing me, don't do that, because if I push back, I'm going to land up hurting you. So I don't want to get into this. So let's not do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, from me, I think that is the right thing, and that is something that I think should be taught to our children. Like, when you I'm sure, and I've seen you doing so many self defense workshop with women. When you talk to them and you ask them that, listen, what do you do about, how do you prepare for a time you might be under attack? I'm sure you have faced this. 70% of those women truly believe that they are never going to be in a scenario where they have to defend themselves,
Right.
right? Because they believe, oh, I live in a city where everything's good, I travel in Bombay, it's safe, so it's all good. Oh, this is not Delhi, or this is not this city where I'm going to be attacked. One is that, we do not recognize that we are a threat.
Right.
Second thing is that we most, and you'll see those few women that will be, oh, no, no, I can defend myself because I do kickboxing here and I do kickboxing there. And I had this very good experience where this lady kept talking about how she does, she goes to a Gold's Gym and she does kickboxing and she can defend herself, and, oh, if you attack me, I'll do this and I'll do that, and if you grab both my neck with both your hands. And I was like, listen, one, if I have to attack you, that's not what I'm going to do. So she's
Right.
like, oh, so you can attack me, I'm okay, this and that. I just walked up to her and I just caught her by the neck and shook her like how we do in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And she burst into
Wow.
tears.
Wow.
And she burst
Wow.
into tears. And
Wow.
everyone in that room was like, like, oh, you can't do that. And I was like, this is exactly my point. You need to understand that what shocks us is the brutality of violence. It's not the act of it.
So essentially, what you did was you showed her the truth,
Yeah.
the true situation of what's
Because
out there.
we
If you
believe
had
that,
not done that, then
yeah,
she would have never
she was
known what the
living
truth
under
is.
this she was living under this false sense of security that she can defend herself. My point is that nobody, I mean, in a real life scenario, people are not going to come to you and grab both your wrist and pull you and stuff like that. It's going to be a fast, it's going to be a brutal act. I mean,
Yes.
bully mentality. Look at
Yep.
it, bully mentality. I am going to pick on somebody who's smaller than me.
Yeah.
I will never pick on somebody who's bigger than me because chances are I'll get my face smashed. So I'm going to pick up somebody who's smaller than me. I'm going to try and dominate them. So this is something that I feel that our culture has removed from us, is that point of saying that, listen, you know, you need to learn to defend yourself. I'm not saying that we need to tell our
Ownership.
or
Ownership.
our women in the house that you need to fight. No,
Right. Right. It's
but
it's
you
a sense
need
of
to learn.
ownership. Like,
Yes,
like you are responsible for your own safety.
I
You know.
mean, people, there are women that will tell you that, oh, I was standing in front of 20 people and this guy did this and nobody said anything. And my point to that lady was, did you even raise a voice? Did you do anything? And she was like, no. I was like, listen, it starts with you. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that how you fight off a bully? You stand up, and that's the first thing. That's the first red flag for them, that okay, somebody is fighting back. Is it worth my time and effort to bully this person, or should I pick on an easier target who'll just
But
do what I...
but coach, some women would say that the society must educate the men so that they don't behave like that, and they shouldn't be required to defend themselves.
The truth is, there are always going to be men like that.
Exactly. I agree with that point
There are
actually.
always going to be men like that. I mean, forget men.
Unfortunate, but it's true.
I have an 8-year old child who goes to a school where you hear instances of kids being bullied.
Yeah.
So yeah, instead of telling them that, okay, in an ideal world, this is how we men should behave. This is not an ideal world we are living in. And I think culturally, we need to have that mentality. In the metros, we spend time and energy in, you know like, our kids can go to music classes, our kids can go everywhere, but
Mm.
ask them to learn a martial arts, and the first response of the parent is, अरे उसको fighter थोड़ी ना बनाने का है. It is not about fighting. I have believed that, you know to even fight, it is something that has to be developed in you with training. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I know that if we don't spar for 3 months, the first time you spar, the every time a punch comes to you, your eyes close and you cover up. What is
Yeah.
that? That is
Yeah.
flight mode. That
That's a
is
flinch
flight
response. Yeah.
flinch response. It's flight mode.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not fight mode. Fight mode is something we need to train for,
You don't
because
rise to the level of your potential. You sink down to the level of your training.
exactly. I mean, and I have believed this, that that whole fight mode has been killed because of the specification of culture. We look down on somebody fighting. We look down, or अरे वो ऐसा ही है वो, they don't come from a culturally good background. That's why they allow their kids to fight, and you know that
You know,
that
I
we...
wanna I wanna talk about this barbaric portrayal that fighting has. The mainstream media has given to fighting, because you and me know, like, that's not all that's going on. It's not this barbaric thing where people are just blindly swinging fists with all their power, but there's more going on in the ring. Apart from this barbaric portrayal that we are used to seeing. Why don't you, like, shed a little bit of light on the technicalities, of fighting in the ring? What's going on between two people when they get in there? What are they thinking about? The technicalities of it, a little bit, just a little bit, so people understand there's more to this than just blindly swinging fists.
So, this is what I tell everyone, that there is a difference between a street fight and a trained individual. Two people swinging on the street aren't fighters, they aren't trained individuals. A trained individual would always take the option not to fight on a street, because, I mean, come on, you and I both know the kind of damage we can do to somebody who's not aware of, how to fight.
Yeah.
So my first option would not be to fight. My first option would be to say, listen, man, I mean, I do this twice a day. I do this for a bloody living, man. I mean, I would not want to beat you up for free. So I'm just going to take the high road and, walk away from here. But so the point is, that it's a science. It's a science like any other. Okay, like how sprinting is a science. It's not like you just get up and you start sprinting and you win an Olympic gold medal. Or how, let's take cricket. I mean, cricket being the most valid example in our country.
Right.
If, they say there is a Tendulkar in every gully, but how does Tendulkar become a Tendulkar? There is a lot of science to it, there is a lot of hard work to it, there is a lot of dedication to it. I mean, the simple amount of, understanding of, in a sport like BJJ, understanding things like leverages, understanding physiologies, understanding, anatomies, understanding what, to what level, you can cause harm to a person, or a person can harm you, and trying to defend it. It's all a science. At the end of the day, it's all a science. And I think the biggest part of this, a part of it being a science, is the mindset. It's a mindset. No two fighters ever think, oh, I'm going to go in the cage and I'm going to kill this guy. I mean, we can talk all the trash we want to hype up the fight, but
Mm-hmm.
the 12 weeks or the 8 weeks that we spend living, living up to that fight or leading up to that fight, we live it. We we sleep to a measured manner, we eat to a measured manner. Our every training schedule, every technique in every schedule is designed to meet a specific neural pathway, or energy pathway, and how
Yeah.
best we conserve energy. I mean, these are things that people don't see. For people,
Yeah.
it's like two people going in the cage and swinging, and I guess, it is, some people might call it a barbaric nature, but I say that this is what we are. All inhibitions stripped down, this is what we are. I mean,
At the
let's be
purest
really
level.
honest. Yeah, I mean, let's be really honest. You see two people on the road slapping each other, 50 people are going to stand there and watch them.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not because they hate fighting, it is because that is an instinct.
Yes. I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from. And I think that aspect, that the cerebral aspect of fighting, is what attracts me to it. I mean, that's the reason why I spend most of my time doing jujitsu, is because, the if I had to choose, I choose jujitsu just because I feel, for me, I'm more cerebrally involved in that sport. Although I love Muay Thai, I love kickboxing as well, but that's if I had to choose, I think jujitsu just has so many techniques and so many different ways. And also, what attracts me, another thing, is that somebody who is weaker can actually, who is technically more, how should I say, technically more well versed,
Superior, yeah.
can overcome a stronger person.
Yeah, I mean, man, when I was 140 kgs, my BJJ coach in Singapore was barely 78 kgs, and he would, like, I mean, those were the worst 5 minutes of my life every time I rolled with him. I mean, it was just embarrassing, man. And I know that's the best. That's the beauty of our sport. The more you train, the deeper you get into it, you realize that 140 kgs without a brain attached to it means nothing.
Yeah, yeah, we
I
have.
have had to learn to use that 140 kgs to my advantage.
Yeah.
Initially, I would feel that, oh, I'm just going to go grab this guy and sit on him and he's not going to be able to do shit. And I very soon realized that that's not the case, man. That's not the case. It is the most humbling experience.
We have Akshata in our gym, who humbles most guys who walk in, like she will whoop their asses.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
she's a 50 kg girl. And this is what I tell everyone, that if you think that, at the end of the day, you get these guys, you get these so-called, I mean, I'm sure you've encountered them, especially since our gym had both the bodybuilding aspect and the combat aspect.
yeah.
You would get these bunch of bodybuilders standing and looking at us and saying, ah, in log kya ek dusre ko chipak rahe hai. Once you grab them, they can't do anything. And I was like, dude, like, the last thing you want to do is grab any one of us.
Yeah, that's true.
The further away you can stay from us, at least you have a chance.
You have a puncher's chance.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you grab us, and chances are that either you're going to be put to sleep, or your good joints are going to turn in manner that you didn't even know those could be turned.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I had a question, in fact, coming in from Siddharth and Abu as well. So they have like similar questions. They, and I'll just put them across both to you, and then you can decide how you want to answer them. So Siddharth asks, like, how does he maintain that positive attitude all the time? You know, and Abu asks, if you ever feel down, like, and if if you do, what pushes you to train when you're feeling down, and what pushes you to, in fact, even then get the team to train. You push everyone else if you're coming from that space. So how do you deal with feeling, like, feeling down and having that positive attitude all the time?
So I think, Jay, one thing that I learned very quickly is that, being the coach and being the guy leading the training, I had to be where my feet was. So
Hmm.
this is something that, I've always told all you guys as well is, you'll always hear me saying this is be where your feet are. So, I've always believed that when I'm at home, I'm a father, and that's a role I play. The moment I step in on the mat, I'm a coach, I'm an athlete, and that's the role I need to play. I understand that, if I come in carrying 10,000 things on my head, or if I'm low, that's the energy that I'm going to put my entire team through, because I'm going to lead the session. And if I'm going to be like, yaar, aaj ek kaam karte hai, let's not do this, this is too demanding, let's not do this, you know, that's the energy that's going to get rubbed off into everyone in that training room.
Hmm.
Regarding whether I'm down, yes. I mean, I've been dealing with my own issues, and I mean, like every other person. I mean, I would like to say that my issues are bigger than, we all believe that our troubles are the biggest, but uh, this is something that I have believed that, I need. This is what I do, and the
Hmm.
only reason I do it is because I love doing this. I mean, when I'm on the mat, I
Hmm.
truly in my heart believe that there is no other place in this world that I would rather be at that time than be where I am. That is on that mat, spending time with you guys, training, improving myself, improving my team. And what keeps me going is the fact that, when you're 40 and you're training with guys who are 24, 28, and all that, and they are
Right.
trying to rip your head off, you can't afford to slack. I mean, so, and this is something that I have always tried to inculcate in the team. And I think it's a circle. It's a circle, because if I'm sharp, I keep you sharp. By keeping you sharp, you keep me sharp, because you know that I'm not going to go easy on you. You're going to give me 100%.
Yeah.
So in return, I know you're not going to go easy on me. So I cannot say that, listen, I'm having a bad day, because, again, our sport is such where, say tomorrow I step in the cage, I walk up to my opponent and I tell him, listen, I've had a bad day, my mom's not well. So
Can you
is
go
he going
easy
to
on
be
me
easy on me?
today?
He's not. I
It's
mean,
not.
he's been put in that cage. He's
Yeah.
gone through 12 weeks of a training camp where he's been put through hell. He has sacrificed n number of things to be in that cage with you. He's going to take every little thing that you have to give him and give it back to you 100%.
Yeah.
So, there, I cannot expect any sympathy and I cannot give any sympathy. And that's something that we need to do on the training room, so that gets reflected in a competition. If in a training room I make an excuse saying, today I'm not going to go, guys that are tough, because, I've had a tough day, or today I'm feeling low, so maybe I'll take it easy.
Hmm.
you know it's not a mandatory that the day I have my competition, everything's going to fall in a place. I when I fought my first fight, I had to travel 6 hours flight, and then an hour and a half by bus to just make weight. And
Yeah.
once I got there, there was a lot of mess happening around me. And I and the next day I had to fight. I mean, I had to fight. So you have to push everything aside, and you have to. And I think that comes from the training room, because I know that if in the training room I'm not allowed to make excuses, because my partners are not going to go easy on me because I'm making excuses, that
Right.
nature will get carried over in competition. Regardless of what happens outside the mat, I'm going to go on the mat and I'm going to give my 100%. So I
Right.
guess, that's the fear of getting murdered by you guys is what keeps me going.
There's this ancient Stoic saying by Seneca. He says that luck happens when preparation meets opportunity. That's when luck happens, you know. And I think the training room is the preparation. You know, that's basically the office for a fighter. You know, and if you were to take the martial arts mindset to day to day life, essentially your every day is like walking into your training room. Every day is like walking into your office, and you got to give it your best no matter how you're feeling, because the day the opportunity comes, it's not going to knock on your door, okay, today's the opportunity, be ready, or I'm coming tomorrow, be ready. It'll just come, and you have to be ready for it. And how has martial arts changed your mindset in a day-to-day life? Because I have tried to keep this mindset in my head that I have to be at my best, because anytime the opportunity can come, and I want to be 1% better than I was yesterday. How has it affected you? How, if you were not Jitendra Khare, the martial artists, how would you be different?
So, you know, just something on similar lines, I'm sure you've read. So, one of the greatest minds in our sport, John Danaher, has written this in GSP's book, and which actually quite kind of made me understand why I am what I am. Is
Uh-huh.
because he says that you show me any great person, and more often than not, I can prove to you that their life is governed by a schedule. Coming back, I guess this thing got inculcated in me from my boarding days, because for me, my boarding days, if you look back at the life of a boarding school, you wake up at a particular time. Okay, you
Mm-hmm.
have to be on meals at a particular time, you get to eat for that much time. After that, we had the set time where we were in our study rooms, and we were supposed to do our studies. Then we had a set time of classes that we needed to attend, and then we had a set time every evening, 2 hours, which was games time, where we had to play a certain number of games. And this was my life since I was 9 years old, right up till I was 14. And I think that because of that, what has happened is that having a schedule, or having putting myself in a situation, like I said, if you ask me what I'm going to do 6 months from now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If it's 11 o'clock, I'm going to be in my gym getting ready to train. At 12 o'clock, I'll be on my mat. Obviously there are up and down, and there is always going to be daily
Right.
situations and stuff like that. And it's just that uh, I think that the reason why I do what I do, or I identify with this more than anything else, is I like giving structure to my day.
Mm-hmm.
I like knowing, like I said, I'm a creature of habit. It's very weird, and I don't know whether this makes sense or it's science or not,
No,
but
it makes complete sense to me. Because that's exactly the kind of mindset that I have as well. And when I'm working with my clients as well, so when I'm working with clients for helping them with their eating habits and stuff, that's exactly what I do. Not from a point of view of exact times, like okay, you do this at this time, you do this at this time. I let them figure that out. But what I do is I try to change the habits, because this is where the magic actually happens. It's one small thing every day. So for you, I'm guessing it's like a series of one small things that you have built up into your routine, which is now your day, and that's how
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
doing
it
it.
has its pros and cons. Like, the moment my schedules get disturbed for more than a day or two, I
Right.
mean, it tends to, that whole thought of waking up and not knowing what I have to do makes
Mm.
me very uneasy. Because, I mean, since I was 9 years old, I have lived a life where, like I said, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. So,
Hmm.
it has its pros and cons. Obviously, the pros are that maybe because of what, most people ask me what keeps me going at 41 and why do I do this at 41, is
Hmm.
because I like having this structure to my life. you know i i I mean, I enjoy the random things. It's not like I don't. It's not like, if somebody says that, listen, we've had 2 3 hard training sessions, can we, just take this session off and go and watch a movie as a team? And I'd be
Mm.
like, okay, we've earned it, let's do it. But if you tell me that to do that every second day or third day, I'd be like, no, dude, not happening. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't go down with me.
Because you have
It
a
just,
mission, like
yeah,
you have a purpose.
yeah, I mean, purpose, or yeah, I mean, like I've always said this, I'm a creature of habit, and that's why it's very easy for me, like, um, I don't know the right term, but when So when I went from 140 kgs, I dropped my weight and I fought at 87 kgs. It
Yeah.
took me almost a year and a half to get there. But uh, that kind of discipline, that kind of, having that structure that, okay, this time I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. I was, I think, in my elements, and I kind of enjoyed that more than having to do random things like, oh, shit, now I don't have time to eat. Let me grab something and eat that. And that's
Right.
where, my entire lifestyle went haywire.
Right.
So as much as possible, I like to, and try and stick to something that, like you said, those 10 little things that I do every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes, it also leads to a point where it becomes an obsession. And I guess I'm battling with that right now because it, like in situations like what we are in today,
Yeah.
it becomes very difficult to live with a schedule. And it becomes, I mean, yeah, now the schedules: wake up, sleep, eat.
So how has the lockdown, affected, like, let's say, your martial arts life, your training and the team training, like, how are you adapting to that?
So I guess initially, we all took the break because initially I think the initial lockdown was called, I think, for 2 weeks or something like
Yeah.
that. We
Yeah.
all, took a break from training, and after the first 2 days, I woke up and I realized that shit. I mean, you can wake up in the morning without any pain. That's a feeling I've experienced for almost a decade.
Yeah.
So that was great. The first week of it or the first 5 days was great. But then, somewhere that lack of not having a structure or not being able to train, all that endorphins and the adrenaline and all that, and that whole feeling of, pushing your body till it breaks and then letting it recover was gone. And I think what happened is that I saw that frustration, I saw that kind of desperation creeping in the team also.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess at that point we took a decision saying that, listen, we can adapt to this situation. I mean, fine, we can't get together and beat the shit out of each other on a daily basis, but we can still use technology and see each
Yeah.
other and train with each other online. And that's where we started, training again. We said, let's go back and train close to the times that we were training. So normally we would train at 1 in the afternoon anyway, the fight team, and
Mm-hmm.
now we are training at 12:45. And then evening sessions, though our evening sessions were a little later, like 8:30, and would go on till 10:30, but now we've started training at 7:30. And
Mm-hmm.
because it's online, we keep it short till 8:30. But
Okay.
I think it has given, I've been talking to all the guys that have been attending the training, and I guess we've gone from a mode where we were at least doing, alternate sessions hard,
Mm.
to drilling a lot more, spending a lot of time on flowing, spending a lot of time on new things. Like we've been working a lot on footwork in boxing and Muay Thai, which is
Mm-hmm.
something which not our team is not really known for. But
Mm-hmm.
it has given me the time to explore that whole angle, not only for myself but also for the team. And hopefully, this is something that we carry on to, once the lockdown opens and we get back to fighting. I'm hoping to carry this into, that side.
So what if people want to join this online training? How do they go about it? If somebody wants to inquire or get in touch with you.
So we have, what we are doing is, so our fight team training is always separate, and I'd never mix that with training for, new people or for people who are training with us just for fitness, because obviously the fight team is at a particular level, and so I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to spend that much time teaching them basics of a jab and a cross, or, oh, this is a closed guard, this is an open guard, and we
Sure.
can just directly move into more advanced techniques, or move into other aspects, though basics, but other aspects of things that we haven't worked on. So
Sure.
what we are doing is we are conducting online classes for people that want to join us for fitness or want to start learning martial arts. We are conducting classes from Monday to Saturday at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. And we are also me and my coaches, that's Sushovan Ghosh and Vishnu Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
All of us are also available for one-on-one personal trainings if 11 and 6 a.m. p.m. doesn't suit you. 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. doesn't suit you. We are also available for online personal training.
Right.
Where we cater to your level.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Right.
because today, I mean, like you, most of the guys in the fight team,
Mm-hmm.
we've spent almost 3 years, 4 years working together.
Yeah.
So that kind, that obviously sets a different level. And
No, that's
having,
fine. I think that's
having
perfect.
somebody coming in will, land up being counterproductive to them.
Yeah. So wonderful. How do people get in touch with you if they want to join?
I'm on Facebook under Jitendra Khare. I'm on Instagram under Jitendra Vicky Khare. Team Relentless is on Facebook and Instagram, and Gym Evolution Fitness and Combat Sports, sorry, is also on Instagram and Facebook. You can message us there, follow us and message us there, and we'll get back to you.
Lovely. And what I'll do also is, in the description of the podcast, I'll put all of these links down. So if anybody wants to, get in touch, they can use those links and get in touch with you. Coach, this has been wonderful. I have one last question from Professor Almeida that he promised me he'd make me ask you. So I'm going to ask you, why do you, in all the wrestling sessions with him, go after his neck and try to take it out?
Listen, it's him or me. He's a be eaten man. I mean, he's a black belt. So you can imagine if I don't do that, what's he going to do to me? I mean, this isn't fair. He asked me the same thing in his interview, and I was like, "Yeah, you're talking about your neck. What about my ankle, my knee, my elbow, my wrist, my shoulders?" So I mean, I'm going to grab onto whatever I can when I'm sinking.
Awesome, awesome. And you're doing a teens BJJ program with him as well. If anybody wants
Yes,
to.
so we have under his guidance, and under his syllabus, we have started a kids BJJ program, and we are working with kids from 4 years till 9 years at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We're working with um, uh, this play group and a play school in Andheri, Podar Jumbo Kids, and we've started this program, and we are hoping to kind of replicate this program in our gym once it starts, and also in other schools and other colleges if they are interested. Because I think BJJ is a very good sport for kids to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's a very cerebral sport. It not only makes them aware of what how their body works, and it also gives them it's a puzzle. They're always solving a puzzle, literally
Right.
using their mind and body. So it's been great. I mean, we've been doing this for almost 8 or 9 months, and it was fun. You were there when we did the first grading with our
Yes.
4 year olds and 5 years olds, and
Yes.
it was amazing to see how much they've grown and how
Yeah.
much they're going to enjoy this. And now actually, initially we were not sure whether the kids would want to do something online, but the kids' parents have contacted us, and we are now 2 weeks into an online class. It's a
Wow.
different challenge. I
It's
mean, it's a
amazing.
different challenge. First of all, keeping those kids' attention on online, but yeah, it's fun. It's fun, and it's nice to see because these kids started asking their parents that, listen, we are missing training and we want to train again. And we were like, let's
That's
do whatever we can, the best we can, to keep that
that's all
interest.
the proof you need. I mean, if it's coming from them, that's all the proof you need that
Yeah,
it's
I
working
mean,
and
believe
they're
me,
enjoying it.
it actually kind of solidifies my belief in this whole kids BJJ program.
Yeah.
And like once again, I said my son's been training since he was 4 years old, and he's now a gray belt under Professor Carlos Almeida, and he just did his first international competition where he picked up a bronze. But believe me, I mean, as a father, I mean, apart of being a coach, as a father, my
Yeah.
best moments with him have been on the mat. And my proudest moment has just to see him compete and how he handled the loss, and the kind of uh, like he came back to me in tears and he said, uh, I'm sorry I lost, but I'll make sure I don't lose the next time. And I was like, listen, you're going to lose a lot, so that's okay. Don't think that you've let me down. I'm glad that you competed, but yes, it's a long journey. You're just starting. So it was a very, very proud moment for me as a father
Uh,
to see him
That's
step
a
on the mat.
I think that's a valuable lesson in jiu-jitsu and in life in general. I mean, your parents are going to love you no matter what. But
Yeah, I mean, we are all going to lose a lot. And this is what
yeah,
I always tell. If you are training with me because you think I'm not going to lose, please stop training with me. I'm going to lose a lot, probably
sure.
lose more than I win. And that's how I'm going to learn.
Yeah.
So,
Failure is an essential part of
I mean,
success.
it's part of the game. It's part of the game. The more I tap, the more I learn.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Coach. This has been brilliant. I love chatting with you, and I want to have you back again because there's so much more that I want to talk about. But it's already been going on for I think more than an hour, almost an hour. So I'm definitely gonna call you back. But thank you so much for coming and for being here with us. It's an honor. It's a privilege.
Oh, the honor was all mine, Jay. Thank you for inviting me, and I hope I mean, I always say this. I love the sound of my own voice, but I hope it might just help somebody, or if it even helps somebody think. I think my job is done. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Jay.
Man, what a journey. If there's one thing that I took back from that conversation, it's it's the fact that happiness can't be chased, especially if you're chasing after it in your comfort zone. You know, the path to being happy or confident or strong, the path to those things comes from being okay with the fact that that you're okay being uncomfortable, or that you're okay being weak sometimes, or that you're okay being punched in the face. You have to embrace that adversity, that hardship, that feeling. You have to love it. It can't be hardship, it can't be something that you detest, because in there somewhere, in that experience, that's your path to becoming stronger. This is Jay Parekh, and this was the Alpha X podcast. I'll see you next time.